25. Famous Black who died from HIV/AIDS. You'll be surprised. What if some of the greatest voices, brightest talents, and boldest pioneers in Black history were taken from us long before their time by a disease the world refused to talk about? Today, we're pulling back the curtain on 25 famous Black icons whose deaths from HIV/AIDS shook entertainment, sports culture, and activism to the core. Some names you know, others will leave you stunned. Before we begin, hit subscribe and tap the notification bell so you never miss another story of power, tragedy, and triumph here on Legends of Black Excellence. Ready? Let's step into the truth they never got to tell. Eazy-E. The story behind 25 famous Black who died from HIV/AIDS, you'll be surprised, becomes especially powerful when we focus on Eazy-E, a central figure in the rise of West Coast rap. Born Eric Lynn Wright in Compton, he helped launch NWA and pushed hard truths about street life into mainstream America. At the height of his notoriety, few could imagine that a young, energetic mogul like him would be facing a fatal illness. In early 1995, after being hospitalized with severe breathing problems, he issued a public statement revealing he had AIDS. Less than a month later, at only 30 years old, he was gone, his passing instantly turning him into one of the most widely known Black celebrities lost to the epidemic. His death stunned fans, the music business, and the wider public. Many listeners who had grown up on his records suddenly realized that HIV was not a distant problem affecting other people, but a real threat that could reach even the most successful performers. In the context of the 25 notable Black figures whose lives ended due to AIDS-related conditions, Eazy-E occupies a unique place. His abrupt decline highlighted how late diagnoses, limited awareness, and social stigma had cost precious time. The shock surrounding his illness forced radio stations, magazines, and television programs to address subjects they had often avoided testing: safer sex, and the particular impact of HIV in Black communities. When viewers look back on these 25 stories, the chapter about Eazy-E carries a special emotional weight. In his final message, he urged people to learn the facts, protect themselves, and show compassion instead of judgment. That farewell transformed a controversial rapper into a cautionary symbol and, in a way, an educator. His inclusion on this list underlines how HIV/AIDS cut across fame, success, and genre, claiming not just private lives, but cultural trailblazers whose influence still echoes through music, media, and memory. Arthur Ashe. Arthur Ashe stands as one of the most remarkable figures in American sports. As the first Black man to win the US Open, Wimbledon, and the Australian Open in men's singles, he broke racial barriers with dignity, intelligence, and unmatched composure. Throughout his career, Ashe was admired not only for his athletic talent, but also for his grace under pressure and his deep commitment to social justice. Few could have imagined that a champion who conquered the world's greatest courts would later face a medical tragedy unrelated to his lifestyle or choices. During heart surgery in the early 1980s, before donated blood was routinely screened, Ashe contracted HIV through a contaminated transfusion, an accident that would ultimately cut his life short. When he publicly revealed his diagnosis in 1992, the nation was stunned. Ashe was the very image of discipline and integrity, and his announcement challenged widespread assumptions about who could be affected by the virus. Instead of retreating from the spotlight, he used his influence to educate the public, advocating for better understanding and compassion at a time when fear and misinformation dominated the conversation. On February 6, 1993, he passed away at age 49 from AIDS-related pneumonia, a fact confirmed by BlackDoctor.org, Britannica, and multiple trusted medical sources. Arthur Ashe's legacy extends far beyond his trophies. He left behind a powerful example of courage and honesty, proving that true greatness is measured not only by victories, but by the impact one leaves on society. His story remains a critical part of understanding how HIV/AIDS touched even the most respected and accomplished individuals in Black history. Fela Kuti. Fela Anikulapo Kuti, remains one of the most electrifying and revolutionary figures in global music history. Celebrated as the father of Afrobeat, he fused the rhythms of high life with the raw power of funk jazz and traditional Yoruba music to create a sound that energized generations. More than a band leader, he was a fearless cultural force whose performances mixed politics, philosophy, and piercing social commentary. His Lagos compound, the famed Kalakuta Republic, became a creative sanctuary and a political lightning rod, drawing fans and critics from around the world. Yet despite his towering influence and boundless energy on stage, his life came to a sudden halt in 1997 when his younger brother, Dr. Olukoye Ransom Kuti, Nigeria's former Minister of Health, made a public announcement confirming that Fela had died from AIDS-related complications. For many across Africa and the diaspora, the revelation was shocking. Fela had built an almost mythic persona, unyielding, rebellious, and seemingly indestructible in the face of constant government persecution. His death highlighted a reality often hidden in African public life, at the time the silence and stigma surrounding HIV/AIDS. Even in his final years, he remained a commanding performer, touring, recording, and speaking against oppression with unwavering conviction. But privately, the progression of the illness weakened him, and by August 2, 1997, one of Africa's greatest artistic voices had been silenced at just 58 years old. Fela Kuti's impact did not end with his passing. His creation of Afrobeat inspired countless musicians from Nigeria to the United States, and his message of resistance still fuels today's global movements for justice and artistic freedom. By including him among the 25 famous Black who died from HIV/AIDS, you'll be surprised. We recognize not only the loss of a revolutionary artist, but also the importance of confronting a disease that claimed even the boldest and most brilliant among us. Alvin Ailey. Alvin Ailey occupies a singular place in American cultural history, an artist whose imagination reshaped modern dance and opened doors that had long been shut to Black performers. Born in Texas during the era of segregation, he grew up surrounded by the spirituals, blues, and folk traditions that would later form the emotional foundation of his choreography. When he founded the Alvin Ailey American Dance Theater in 1958, he created not only a company, but a haven for dancers of color who had been historically excluded from major stages. His masterpiece, Revelations, first performed in 1960, blended faith, memory, and movement in a way that resonated deeply with audiences regardless of background. Through his work, Ailey introduced the world to stories rooted in the Black experience, told with elegance, honesty, and extraordinary artistic power. As his company rose to international acclaim, Ailey shouldered the immense pressures of leadership in a still segregated artistic landscape. At the same time, he carried personal burdens he rarely shared publicly. In the late 1980s, HIV/AIDS was cutting through artistic communities with alarming speed, taking dancers, musicians, actors, and choreographers long before their time. Ailey, privately confronting the same illness, continued to guide his company and support younger artists, even as his health declined. On December 1, 1989, he passed away at 58 from complications related to AIDS, a fact confirmed through well-documented medical reports and trustworthy sources, including Fiction Horizon and blackdoctor.org. Because of the persistent stigma surrounding the disease, he asked that hospital records refer to a general blood disorder to spare his mother distress. Despite the silence surrounding his final struggle, Ailey's artistic legacy has only intensified with time. His company tours globally, reaching millions and training new generations of performers who carry forward the emotional truth and cultural pride embedded in his choreography. Through every performance, audiences witness the continuing influence of a man who revolutionized dance by giving voice to stories often overlooked. His life remains a testament to creativity, resilience, and the profound impact one visionary can have on the world. Sylvester. Sylvester James Jr., known to the world simply as Sylvester, was one of the most dazzling performers to ever step onto a disco stage. Born in Los Angeles and raised in the church, He carried gospel's fire into a new era of sound-blending powerhouse vocals with a bold, gender-defying presence that set him apart. When You Make Me Feel Mighty Real exploded in 1978. It wasn't just another dance hit. It became an anthem of liberation for LGBTQ communities, club culture, and anyone who believed in the joy of self-expression. Sylvester stood proudly at the center of the disco movement, a luminous figure whose charisma and authenticity made him unforgettable. His concerts were electric, his falsetto soared effortlessly, and his refusal to conform became an inspiration for generations of artists who followed. Behind the glitter and spotlight, however, Sylvester faced the harsh realities of a changing era. As the AIDS epidemic swept through San Francisco's nightlife in the early 1980s, he witnessed friends, fellow musicians, and lovers fall to the disease long before the public understood its scale. By the mid-1980s, he himself had been diagnosed with HIV, yet he continued to perform record and advocate for compassion and awareness. Even as his health declined, he remained committed to his craft and to the community that had embraced him. According to multiple reliable sources, Sylvester died on December 16, 1988, from AIDS-related complications at only 41 years old. His passing marked one of the earliest high-profile losses in entertainment, bringing national attention to a crisis too long ignored. In his final act of generosity, Sylvester arranged for the royalties of his music to be donated to HIV/AIDS organizations in San Francisco, a legacy of support that continues decades after his death. His forward-thinking artistry, fearless identity, and unwavering spirit cemented his place as the true queen of disco. Through every remix, documentary, tribute performance, and pride celebration, his influence continues to glow. Sylvester's life reminds us that brilliance can blaze even in the darkest times, and that art, when infused with truth, can survive long after the voice behind it is gone. Willi Smith. Willi Smith was one of the most influential fashion designers of the late 20th century, a creative pioneer who reshaped American style long before streetwear became a global force. Born in Philadelphia and trained in illustration and design, he entered the fashion world determined to make clothing that reflected real people and everyday life. In 1976, he co-founded WilliWear, a brand that blended comfort, functionality, and art with an unmistakably modern edge. By 1986, the label had become a cultural phenomenon, generating more than $25 million in annual sales, placing Smith among the most commercially successful black designers in American history. His clothes dressed dancers, actors, office workers, and trendsetters alike, earning him a reputation as the man who brought high fashion to the streets and the streets to high fashion. Behind his rising success and groundbreaking vision was a designer deeply involved with the creative world around him. Smith collaborated with performance artists, filmmakers, and architects, weaving fashion into the broader cultural conversation. His aesthetic was inclusive, democratic, and ahead of its time, a reflection of his belief that great design should be accessible to everyone. Yet amid the excitement and innovation of the 1980s, Smith was quietly facing a health crisis that would tragically cut his journey short. In April 1987, after falling ill during a business trip to India, he underwent medical treatment in New York, where doctors discovered he was suffering from AIDS-related pneumonia. He died on April 17th of that year, at just 39 years old, a loss that stunned the fashion world. Although Willi Smith's life ended far too soon, his influence continues to echo across today's runways, streetwear labels, and interdisciplinary collaborations. Designers credit him as a visionary who blurred boundaries long before it was popular, and museums continue to honor his contributions to American design. His story stands as a reminder that brilliance often emerges from boldness, and that innovation can leave a lasting mark, even when a life is brief. Max Robinson. Max Robinson holds a historic place in American broadcasting as a journalist who broke through barriers that once seemed unshakable. Born in Richmond, Virginia, He rose from local newsrooms to become the first black anchor to co-host a major network evening newscast when he joined ABC World News Tonight in 1978. At a time when television news was dominated almost entirely by white faces, Robinson's clear voice, calm presence, and authoritative delivery were nothing short of revolutionary. Viewers admired his intelligence and integrity, and his colleagues recognized him as a reporter determined to ensure that stories about Black Americans were covered with accuracy, dignity, and depth. His success was proof that representation in media was not only possible but essential. While his professional achievements were groundbreaking, Robinson faced intense pressures behind the scenes. He carried the weight of being a national first, working in an industry that scrutinized him more harshly than his peers. Throughout the 1980s, as HIV/AIDS emerged and misinformation spread faster than facts, Robinson was privately confronting the disease himself. According to credible reports and statements shared after his death, he contracted HIV during this decade, at a time when stigma and misunderstanding prevented many from seeking early treatment. His condition worsened in late 1988, and on December 20th of that year, he died at just 49 years old due to AIDS-related complications, a fact confirmed by sources referenced in Essence and blackdoctor.org. Robinson's passing was a tremendous loss not only to journalism, but to all who understood the significance of his visibility on national television. His pioneering role paved the way for later generations of black broadcasters who could step into the anchor chair with greater acceptance and opportunity. Even decades after his death, his influence remains visible in newsrooms across the country. Max Robinson's life reminds us that trailblazers often face hidden struggles, yet their impact continues long after the cameras stop rolling. Howard Rollins. Howard Rollins was one of the most gifted actors of his generation, a performer whose depth and emotional range captivated audiences on both the big and small screen. Born in Baltimore, he first gained national attention for his extraordinary portrayal of Coalhouse Walker Jr. in the 1981 film Ragtime, a role that earned him an Academy Award nomination for Best Supporting Actor, and positioned him as one of Hollywood's most promising stars. His soft-spoken dignity, expressive eyes, and innate ability to embody complex characters set him apart from many of his contemporaries. Rollins later brought that same intensity to television, becoming beloved for his role as Detective Virgil Tibbs in the long-running series In the Heat of the Night, where his on-screen chemistry with Carol O'Connor helped the show become a staple of late 1980s prime time. Behind his professional achievements, Rollins struggled with personal challenges that were often magnified by the pressures of sudden fame and public scrutiny. The entertainment industry in that era offered little understanding and even less compassion to actors navigating private hardships. By the early 1990s, as the HIV/AIDS epidemic continued to claim lives across the arts community, Rollins was quietly confronting the illness himself. According to credible accounts later confirmed by those close to him, he developed AIDS-related lymphoma, a form of cancer that attacks the immune system weakened by the virus. His health declined rapidly, leading to his passing on December 8, 1996, at just 46 years old. For many fans, the news was both shocking and heartbreaking, marking the loss of a performer whose talent seemed destined for even greater heights. Although his life was cut far too short, Howard Rollins left behind a legacy defined by excellence, resilience, and unforgettable performances. His roles continue to resonate with viewers who admire the grace and intensity he brought to every character. Younger actors often cite him as a pioneer who demonstrated that black performers could command leading roles in both film and television with sophistication and emotional depth. Through his artistry, he carved out space for future generations, and his memory endures in every rerun, every tribute, and every life touched by his work. Kevin Peter Hall. Kevin Peter Hall was a towering presence in every sense of the word, literally and artistically. Standing at an extraordinary 7 feet 2 inches tall, he brought an unforgettable physicality to roles that required both strength and sensitivity. Born in Pittsburgh, he pursued acting with a drive that matched his remarkable stature, quickly earning recognition for his ability to convey emotion, even from behind layers of prosthetics and creature designs. Audiences around the world came to know him through his iconic portrayal of the alien hunter in Predator 1987, and its sequel roles that demanded precision body control and subtle expressiveness far beyond the typical creature performance. He later revealed a gentler comedic side in the film and television versions of Harry and the Hendersons, where his warm, nuanced performance turned a mythical creature into a beloved family character. Despite his growing success in Hollywood, Hall faced a devastating medical setback unrelated to his career. In the early 1980s, after being injured in a serious car accident, he required a blood transfusion administered during a period when donated blood was not routinely tested for HIV. Unbeknownst to him, the transfusion was contaminated, and he contracted the virus. As the years passed and the disease progressed, he continued to work maintaining professionalism and grace, even as his health quietly declined. By 1991, complications intensified, and on April 10th of that year, he died at only 35 from AIDS-related pneumonia, a loss that left both fans and colleagues stunned. Kevin Peter Hall's legacy is far greater than the roles he played. Colleagues remembered him as gentle, thoughtful, and deeply dedicated to his craft. His groundbreaking work in performance-heavy roles paved the way for future actors who relied on movement presence and physical expression to bring extraordinary characters to life. Though his career was tragically brief, the impact of his talent continues to be felt in both science fiction and family entertainment, an enduring reminder of a gifted artist taken far too soon. Jermaine Stewart. Jermaine Stewart emerged in the 1980s as one of R&B and pop music's brightest voices, blending charm, style, and unmistakable energy. Born in Columbus, Ohio, he began his career as a dancer on the popular television show Soul Train, where his talent quickly drew attention. His transition to singing was seamless, and by the mid-1980s he had signed a recording deal that launched him onto the international stage. In 1986, Stewart released the hit single, "We Don't Have to Take Our Clothes Off," a song that became an anthem for a generation navigating the early years of the AIDS crisis. With its upbeat melody and message of respect, self-control, and emotional connection, the track soared across the charts in the United States, the United Kingdom, and beyond, solidifying Stewart's place in pop history. As the decade progressed, Stewart continued to record and tour, earning a loyal following with his expressive vocals and elegant stage persona. But behind the scenes, his health began to decline. By the mid-1990s, he was living quietly in Illinois, facing a private struggle that reflected the larger crisis unfolding across the music world. According to credible accounts, Stewart had contracted HIV, and over time the illness progressed into AIDS-related liver cancer, a serious complication that affects the immune system's ability to fight disease. Although he maintained close ties with family and friends, his condition worsened, and on March 17, 1997, he passed away at the age of 39. For many fans, the news was heartbreaking. Another gifted artist lost in a period when treatment options were still limited, and stigma remained widespread. Jermaine Stewart's legacy lives on through the timeless optimism of his music. His signature hit continues to appear in films, commercials, and nostalgic playlists, reminding listeners of a performer whose light burned brightly even in a difficult era. His career may have been brief, but the message he championed, dignity, self-worth, and joy, remains as relevant today as it was in the 1980s. David Cole. David Cole was one of the defining creative forces behind the sound of early 1990s pop and dance music. As one half of C+C Music Factory alongside Robert Clevilles, he helped craft a musical blueprint that blended club-ready beats with powerful vocals and unforgettable hooks. Their 1990s smash Gonna Make You Sweat, Everybody Dance Now became a global phenomenon, topping charts and filling dance floors across the world. Cole's talent, however, extended far beyond his work with the group. A gifted producer, arranger, and keyboardist, he collaborated with some of the biggest names in the industry, including Mariah Carey, Aretha Franklin, Whitney Houston, and Michael Jackson. His instinct for melody and rhythm made him a central figure in shaping the crossover dance-pop sound that defined a generation. While his career flourished, Cole faced a private battle that intensified during the height of the HIV/AIDS epidemic. Known for his tireless work ethic and upbeat studio presence, he often continued producing, even as his health began to decline. According to verified reports referenced in Fiction Horizon, Cole contracted HIV in the early 1990s, and over time the illness compromised his immune system. By late 1994, he developed AIDS-related spinal meningitis, a severe infection affecting the membranes around the brain and spinal cord. Despite medical intervention, his condition worsened rapidly, and on January 24, 1995, he passed away at just 32 years old, leaving the music community stunned and heartbroken. David Cole's legacy is woven into the soundtrack of the 1990s. His productions remain staples of radio, film, and television, and his influence continues to be felt in the work of countless inspired by his innovative approach to dance pop. The success of C+C Music Factory did more than shape an era. It showcased Cole's rare ability to fuse gospel-strength vocals, club culture energy, and pop accessibility into something timeless. Though his life ended far too early, the music he created lives on pulsing with the creativity and joy he brought to every project. Gene Anthony Ray. Gene Anthony Ray was a rare kind of performer, one whose talent didn't just entertain but electrified the screen. Born and raised in Harlem, he brought the rhythms of the streets directly into the spotlight, with a natural charisma that couldn't be taught. Ray first burst into global fame in 1980 when he portrayed Leroy Johnson in the hit film Fame, a role that he would later reprise in the popular television series. His athletic movement, fierce intensity, and expressive style made him instantly unforgettable. For many fans, Leroy represented possibility, a young man from modest beginnings who danced his way into a world that wasn't designed to welcome him. Ray's performances helped redefine what male dancers could be: bold, powerful, spirited, and he became a cultural icon for an entire generation. As the years passed, Ray's life took a difficult turn. Fame brought opportunity, but it also brought pressures and challenges that he struggled to navigate. Despite appearances in stage productions, music videos, and international tours, he faced personal obstacles that disrupted the steady rise many expected for him. By the late 1990s, his health began to decline. According to verified reports, Ray contracted HIV, a reality he rarely discussed publicly, as stigma remained widespread. In 2003, after suffering a devastating stroke complicated by AIDS-related conditions, he passed away on November 14th at the age of 41. The news reached fans around the world who remembered him not for the struggles he endured, but for the brilliance he brought to his craft. Gene Anthony Ray's legacy has only grown in the years since his death. Fame continues to inspire new generations of dancers, actors, and dreamers who see in Leroy a reflection of their own ambitions. Ray's fearless commitment to movement, his authenticity, and his undeniable star power ensure his place among the memorable figures lost too soon during the AIDS crisis. His artistry remains alive every time a young performer steps onto a stage, believing that talent and passion can change the course of a life. Bobby DeBarge. Bobby DeBarge was the hauntingly beautiful falsetto behind the R&B group Switch, and the eldest musical star of the now legendary DeBarge family. Born Robert Louis DeBarge Jr. in Detroit in 1956, he helped define the late 1970s Motown sound with hits like There'll Never Be and I Call Your Name, where his soaring upper register became the group's signature. Beyond Switch, Bobby served as a mentor, co-producer, and later member of his younger siblings' group, DeBarge, shaping the sound that would bring songs like All This Love and Rhythm of the Night to worldwide audiences. On stage, he projected confidence and charisma. In the studio, he was known as a perfectionist with an ear for harmony and arrangement. Away from the spotlight, his life was far more turbulent. Bobby struggled with heroin addiction as a young adult, a battle that eventually led to federal drug trafficking charges in 1988 and a prison sentence. According to accounts cited by Black Doctor, org, and other reputable sources. It was during this period that he confided to family members that he had contracted HIV believed to be connected to intravenous drug use. After his release, he returned to recording and managed to complete a solo album fittingly titled It's Not Over, even as his health worsened. By 1995, his condition had deteriorated sharply, and his family moved him to a hospice facility in Grand Rapids, Michigan. On August 16, 1995, Bobby DeBarge died at the age of 39 from AIDS-related complications, a fact documented in multiple reliable sources, including blackdoctor.org, Wikipedia, and contemporary press reports. He was laid to rest in Garfield Park Cemetery, leaving behind 2 children and a musical legacy that continues to influence R&B vocal style. His story is both inspiring and heartbreaking, a reminder of extraordinary talent shaped by pain, and of how the HIV/AIDS epidemic cut short the lives of gifted Black artists at the height of their creative power. Kenny Green. Kenny Green was one of the quiet geniuses behind 1990s R&B, a singer-songwriter and producer whose work helped define the sound of the era, even if his name never became as famous as the artists he wrote for. Born in 1969 in Detroit and later raised in New York, he co-founded the trio Intro, serving as lead vocalist and primary songwriter. With smooth harmonies and soulful arrangements, Intro scored hits like Come Inside and Ribbon in the Sky, showcasing Green's rich tone and emotive delivery. Beyond his own group, he made an even greater impact behind the scenes, co-writing several key tracks on Mary J. Blige's debut album, What's the 411, including Reminisce, My Love You Remind Me, and Love No Limit songs that helped crown her the queen of hip-hop soul. As his reputation grew, Green became a sought-after collaborator, contributing songs and vocals for artists like 98 Degrees, Will Smith, Tyrese Cameron, and others. Yet behind his creative success, he was fighting a private and devastating battle. In a deeply emotional 2001 interview with Sister 2, Sister magazine conducted near the end of his life, he revealed that he was bisexual and living with AIDS. He spoke candidly about his diagnosis, the pain he had endured, and the importance of protecting oneself, using his remaining time to warn others about the dangers of unprotected sex and the cost of silence. On October 1, 2001, Kenny Green died in New York City at just 32 years old due to complications from AIDS, as confirmed by multiple reliable sources. Friends arranged his wake, and he was later honored for his prior service in the U.S. Army and buried at Calverton National Cemetery. Though his life was tragically brief, the songs he crafted remain staples of R&B radio and playlists, his voice living on in every chorus and harmony. For listeners who know the credits, Kenny Green is remembered as a brilliant talent whose artistry outlasted the illness that claimed him. Sharon Redd. Sharon Redd was one of the defining voices of the disco and post-disco era, a powerhouse performer whose presence lit up both the stage and the studio. Born in Norfolk, Virginia, she grew up surrounded by music. Her mother was a respected singer, and her father served as a radio personality, giving her early exposure to the world she would later conquer. After moving to Australia and gaining recognition through television appearances and recordings, she returned to the United States in the late 1970s, just as New York's club scene was exploding. With her commanding vocals and magnetic charisma, Redd became one of the signature voices of Prelude Records, delivering hits like Beat the Street, Love How You Feel, and In the Name of Love. Her sound blended disco's celebratory energy with the polished sensibilities of early 1980s dance music, earning her a loyal international fan base. As the decade progressed, Redd continued to record and tour, bringing her unmistakable voice to clubs and festivals around the world. She was admired not only for her vocal power, but also for her professionalism and warmth toward fans and fellow performers. Yet behind the glamour of nightlife, she lived through a period marked by uncertainty and fear. The HIV/AIDS crisis was hitting the entertainment community hard, especially in cities like New York, where artists often lived and worked in close creative circles. By the early 1990s, Red herself began facing health challenges that gradually limited her ability to perform. According to trusted reports referenced in Fiction Horizon and other verified sources, she contracted HIV and her immune system weakened over time. Sharon Redd passed away on May 1, 1992, at the age of 46, due to AIDS-related complications, leaving the music world stunned and deeply saddened. Though her career was cut short, her voice remains a beloved part of dance music history. Her recordings continue to be sampled, remixed, and celebrated by DJs and fans who recognize her influence on the development of electronic and club music. Sharon Redd's story is a reminder of a radiant talent lost too soon during a turbulent era and of the lasting power of a voice that could fill any room with joy. Glenn Burke. Glenn Burke was more than just a ball player. He was a trailblazer who changed the history of sports in ways that many fans only discovered years later. Born in Oakland, California in 1952, he rose through the minors to join the Los Angeles Dodgers in 1976, later playing for the Oakland A's. Scouts once compared his athleticism to Willie Mays, and he was part of the Dodgers team that reached the 1977 World Series. But Burke's impact went far beyond his stat line. In October 1977, after teammate Dusty Baker hit his 30th home run, Burke greeted him at home plate with an upraised hand. Baker slapped it, and what we now know as the high five was born a simple gesture that became a universal symbol of celebration. Off the field, Burke was living a truth that professional sports was not ready to accept. He was the first Major League Baseball player to come out as gay open with teammates and management during his career and publicly acknowledging his sexuality after retiring in 1982. His refusal to hide who he was led to tension with team executives and is widely believed to have shortened his time in the majors. After leaving baseball, he found community in San Francisco's Castro district, competed in the first gay games, and remained active in local sports. Yet his post-baseball life was marked by hardship drug use, a serious car accident, periods of homelessness, and eventually an HIV diagnosis that became public in the mid-1990s. By 1994, Burke was gravely ill, living with his sister in Oakland. On May 30th, 1995, he died at age 42 from AIDS-related complications at Fairmont Hospital in San Leandro, California. In the years since his courage and visibility have been increasingly recognized, he has been honored by Major League Baseball, inducted into the National Gay and Lesbian Sports Hall of Fame, and remembered by LGBTQ and sports communities alike. Glenn Burke's story is both heartbreaking and heroic, a reminder that being first often carries a cost, but also leaves a legacy that inspires generations to come. Michael Peters. Michael Peters was one of the most influential choreographers of the late 20th century, a visionary whose work helped define the visual language of modern music videos. Born in Brooklyn in 1948, he grew up fascinated by dance and theater, studying with some of the best instructors in New York. His early career took him to Broadway, where he performed in productions like The Wiz and Pearly, gradually earning a reputation for his striking movement vocabulary and cinematic imagination. But it was his collaboration with Michael Jackson that launched him into global recognition. Peters served as the choreographer and on-screen partner for the legendary Beat It video, and later shaped the haunting, unforgettable movement in Thriller. These projects didn't just break records, they changed the very idea of what a music video could be. As his star rose, Peters expanded his work into film, television, and stage direction. His choreography appeared in the movie Dreamgirls, the musical Leader of the Pack, and numerous high-profile projects that showcased his ability to blend storytelling with physical expression. He was known for his disciplined rehearsal rooms, his demand for precision, and his gift for creating movement that both performers and audiences could feel in their bones. Despite his public success, he kept his private life guarded, especially during a decade when the HIV/AIDS crisis was spreading rapidly through artistic communities. Colleagues later recalled that he worked tirelessly even while managing a serious illness that few knew about. By the early 1990s, Peters' health was deteriorating. According to trustworthy public accounts, he was diagnosed with HIV, and the condition eventually progressed into AIDS-related complications. On August 29, 1994, he passed away at the age of 46. His death stunned the dance world, cutting short the career of a man who had already reshaped pop culture and still had so much more to give. Yet his influence lives on every time Thriller plays, every time a dancer hits a sharp angle, or a music video embraces theatrical storytelling. Michael Peters' legacy moves with them, bold and unforgettable. Willie Ninja. Willie Ninja was a revolutionary figure in dance culture, a performer whose elegance, precision, and style reshaped the artistic landscape long before the mainstream world even knew his name. Born in 1961 in Queens, New York, he developed a fascination with movement by imitating models, martial artists, and runway icons. But it was in the underground ballroom scene, an innovative space created by Black and Latino LGBTQ communities, that Willie truly flourished. He mastered and refined voguing, transforming it from an expressive subcultural dance into an art form defined by sharp lines, fluid arms, and sculptural poses. His talent was captured brilliantly in the 1990 documentary Paris is Burning, where he emerged as both a fierce competitor and a thoughtful mentor. With his striking look and disciplined technique, he became known as the godfather of voguing. Ninja's influence quickly moved beyond the ballroom. He brought voguing to fashion houses, choreographed for music videos, and modeled for major designers. His work with the House of Ninja, the family-like dance collective he founded, nurtured countless young performers, teaching them not only movement, but self-confidence and professionalism. Throughout the 1990s and early 2000s, he collaborated with artists, stylists, and choreographers around the world, making voguing a global phenomenon. Yet behind his growing legacy, he faced health challenges that he largely kept private. According to credible accounts, Willie lived for years with HIV, and although he continued to teach and perform, the virus eventually weakened his body. In 2006, Ninja was hospitalized with complications affecting his heart. On September 2, 2006, he died at the age of 45 from AIDS-related heart failure, leaving behind a creative legacy that refuses to fade. His innovations continue to influence runway coaches, pop stars, dancers, and choreographers across the globe. Voguing competitions today still echo his movements, and every sharp pose or fluid arm arc carries a trace of his artistry. Willie Ninja's life remains a powerful testament to how brilliance born in marginalized spaces can transform the world. Franklin Seals. Franklin Seals was a rare gem in American television, an actor whose quiet brilliance and refined presence elevated every project he touched. Born on the Caribbean island of St. Vincent, he brought with him a rich cultural background and a disciplined artistic drive that set him apart from many young performers of his time. After training at Juilliard under the prestigious John Houseman program, Seals entered Hollywood with a resume that showcased both stage mastery and dramatic talent. His breakthrough came when he was cast as Dexter Stuffins, the impeccably dressed, soft-spoken attorney and business manager on the hit sitcom Silver Spoons. Viewers immediately connected with his elegant comedic timing and the warmth he brought to a character who could have easily felt distant in lesser hands. Though best known for his role on television, Seals' artistic range extended far beyond the small screen. He appeared in films such as The Onion Field and worked extensively in theater, earning praise for his thoughtful interpretations and expressive emotional depth. Yet behind his professional accomplishments, he faced the same harsh realities that many artists confronted during the height of the HIV/AIDS epidemic. As the 1980s progressed, the virus began taking a devastating toll on performers, particularly those who, like Seals, were part of creative communities where stigma made open discussion nearly impossible. According to reliable public accounts, his health declined sharply as the decade drew to a close, and he returned to his hometown in St. Vincent, seeking comfort and privacy. Franklin Seals died on May 14, 1990, at the age of 37 from AIDS-related complications, leaving behind a career that felt unfinished but deeply impactful. His absence was felt immediately by colleagues who admired his professionalism and by fans who remembered his grace on screen. Today, reruns of Silver Spoons continue to introduce new audiences to the charm he carried effortlessly. Though his time in Hollywood was brief, Seals' legacy endures as a reminder of how the HIV/AIDS crisis cut short the lives of gifted black actors whose artistry deserved far more years to shine. Larry Riley. Larry Riley was a gifted actor and musician whose work left a lasting mark on both stage and screen. Born in Memphis, Tennessee in 1952, he discovered his love for performing early and went on to study drama at Memphis State University. He built his career in theater before breaking into film with a powerful performance as C.J. Memphis in A Soldier's Story, 1984, a role that revealed his emotional depth and natural authenticity. Television audiences came to know him best as Frank Williams on the primetime soap Knots Landing, where his warmth, humor, and quiet strength made his character a fan favorite. For many viewers, seeing a talented black actor in such a prominent role on a hit network series was both important and inspiring. Behind the success, Riley was dealing with intense private struggles. In 1989, he entered rehab for substance abuse, and not long afterward, he learned he was HIV positive. At a time when HIV/AIDS carried enormous stigma, he chose not to reveal his diagnosis publicly, telling colleagues and the press that his dramatic weight loss was due to kidney problems and high blood pressure. According to his wife and later reports, the renal failure he experienced was actually a direct result of AIDS. Despite his declining health, he continued working on Knots Landing as long as he could, determined to maintain his career and provide for his family. On June 6, 1992, Larry Riley died in Burbank, California at the age of 39 from AIDS-related kidney failure. His ashes were scattered on Malibu Beach, closing the final chapter of a life that had brought joy and representation to millions of viewers. In the years since, he has been remembered as a pioneering black actor whose talent far exceeded the length of his career. Watching his performances today, audiences can still feel the sincerity and humanity he brought to every role, a reminder of how profoundly the AIDS crisis affected the world of television and the artists who shaped it. Marlon Riggs. Marlon Riggs was one of the most courageous and innovative documentary filmmakers of his era. A man who used the camera not just to tell stories, but to break silences that had long oppressed black and queer communities in America. Born in 1957 in Fort Worth, Texas, Riggs excelled academically, eventually earning a master's degree in journalism from the University of California, Berkeley, where he later became a professor. His early work focused on the intersections of race identity and representation, but it was his groundbreaking 1989 film Tongues Untied that established him as a visionary. Through poetry, spoken word, and intimate testimony, Riggs gave unapologetic voice to black gay men at a time when mainstream media rendered them invisible. The film was hailed as a masterpiece by scholars and artists, even as it was criticized by conservative groups, cementing Riggs as a fearless cultural commentator. With each new project, Riggs pushed deeper into the complexities of black life in America. His documentaries, including Ethnic Notions, Black is D, Black Ain't, and Color Adjustment, explored painful histories of stereotyping, exclusion, and racial imagination. He approached every subject with intellectual rigor and emotional honesty, insisting that the full breadth of black experience be seen and understood. Behind the camera, however, Riggs was fighting a private battle. According to credible accounts cited by Gay City News and other verified sources, he was diagnosed with HIV in the late 1980s, just as his career was reaching new heights. As the virus progressed, he continued to work with extraordinary determination, editing from his hospital bed and directing even as his health weakened. Marlon Riggs died on April 5, 1994, at just 37 years old from AIDS-related complications. His final film, Black Ain't, was completed posthumously by friends and colleagues who sought to honor his vision. Today, Riggs' work is studied in universities, screened at film festivals, and celebrated for its bravery and artistry. His legacy endures as a testament to the power of speaking truth, even when the world is not ready to hear it. Essex Hemphill. Essex Hemphill was a poet who refused to soften the truth. Born in Chicago in 1957 and raised in Washington, D.C., he began writing as a teenager using verse to explore family desire, race, and the painful contradictions of American life. In the 1980s, he emerged as a central figure in the D.C. arts scene, performing at cafes, galleries, and community spaces, and quickly became one of the clearest voices speaking openly about what it meant to be both black and gay in the United States. His early chapbooks, Earth, Life, and Conditions, circulated hand to hand, while his later collection, Ceremonies, Prose, and Poetry, 1992, won major awards and cemented his reputation as a singular, fearless writer. Hemphill's work did more than describe individual experience. It confronted systems of silence and erasure. He edited and contributed to Brother new writings by black gay men, helping create a literary home for voices long pushed to the margins. In poems and essays, he tackled police violence, sexual racism, family rejection, and the impact of HIV on black communities. Pieces like Vital Signs captured the emotional and physical reality of living with the virus at a time when many were too afraid to speak publicly. Critics and fellow artists have since described him as a focal point of a second Harlem Renaissance, a writer whose sharp lyrical lines gave language to a generation of black queer men navigating desire and danger in the age of AIDS. By the early 1990s, Hemphill was himself living with AIDS, a fact he acknowledged selectively in interviews and in his work. His health deteriorated, yet he continued to write, perform, and mentor others. On November 4, 1995, he died in Philadelphia at age 38 from AIDS-related complications, as confirmed by multiple trusted sources, including the Academy of American Poets and Aperture. In the decades since, his poems have remained touchstones for readers seeking honesty about race, sexuality, and vulnerability. New editions and exhibitions dedicated to his work show that Essex Hemphill's voice, unyielding, intimate, and profoundly human, continues to guide and inspire long after his passing. Melvin Lindsay. Melvin Lindsay was a quiet revolutionary in American radio, a voice that reshaped nighttime listening without ever needing the spotlight for himself. Born in 1955 in Washington, D.C., he began his career almost by accident, filling in as an intern at Howard University's WHUR-FM. His smooth delivery, intimate tone, and impeccable taste in R&B immediately caught listeners' attention. Out of those late-night shifts, he developed a new kind of program, soft, romantic, deeply soulful, that felt more like a private conversation than a broadcast. That concept became The Quiet Storm, a format named after a Smokey Robinson song, blending slow jams, mellow grooves, and gentle commentary into a seamless mood. The show was such a hit that it quickly evolved from a local experiment into a national template. Stations across the country soon began copying the format, and Quiet Storm Radio became a fixture of black urban life in the late 1970s and 1980s. Lindsay's approach changed what evening radio could be instead of loud, fast-paced chatter. He offered warmth, reflection, and a soundtrack for winding down at the end of the day. Artists like Luther Vandross, Anita Baker Sade, and many others found a natural home in that late-night space, and countless listeners associated their most personal memories with the songs he played. Even as his influence spread and other DJs adopted the style, people in Washington never forgot that the original magic came from Melvin Lindsay's voice, calm, reassuring, and effortlessly cool. Behind the scenes, however, he was living through the same health crisis that was affecting so many in the Black and LGBTQ communities. According to widely cited public records, Lindsay contracted HIV, and his condition eventually progressed to AIDS-related complications. On March 26, 1992, he died at the age of just 36. A loss documented in obituaries and memorials that recognized him as the creative force behind the Quiet Storm format. Though his life was short, the sound he shaped continues to echo on late-night airwaves and streaming playlists, a testament to how one person's sensitivity and vision can permanently change the way the world listens. Reggie Williams. Reggie Williams was one of the most influential HIV/AIDS activists of the late 20th century. a man whose courage and determination helped reshape public health for Black, gay, and bisexual men long before the wider world was willing to acknowledge their needs. Born in 1951 in Cincinnati, he grew up during a period when racism and homophobia restricted opportunity on every front. After moving to San Francisco in the 1970s, he found both community and purpose, becoming one of the early voices insisting that Black LGBTQ people deserved visibility, resources, and dignity. When HIV/AIDS began devastating marginalized communities in the early 1980s, Williams recognized immediately that Black men were being left out of prevention campaigns, medical research, and public support. His response was direct, strategic, and deeply compassionate. He committed his life to creating the systems that society had failed to provide. In 1985, Williams co-founded what became the National Task Force on AIDS Prevention, an organization focused specifically on outreach to Black, gay, and bisexual men, an underserved population facing both higher risk and greater stigma. His programs offered education, testing, access, culturally informed messaging, and safe spaces where men could learn without shame. He also worked with the Stop AIDS Project, traveled nationally to train community leaders, and pushed institutions to recognize the unique challenges faced by men of color. Colleagues described him as warm, brilliant, and fiercely dedicated, a leader who understood that saving lives required not only medical knowledge, but also an honest confrontation with the social forces that left many people unprotected. Even as his own health declined, he continued speaking publicly and organizing tirelessly, refusing to step away from the movement he helped build. By the mid-1990s, Williams's HIV infection had progressed to AIDS, and complications gradually limited his ability to work. Still, he remained active as long as his strength allowed. On December 7, 1999, he died at the age of 48 from AIDS-related complications, a passing confirmed by community organizations and memorial archives. Today, his impact lives on in prevention programs, advocacy networks, and a generation of health leaders inspired by his example. Reggie Williams is remembered not only as an activist, but as a pioneer who helped protect thousands of lives through truth, courage, and unwavering commitment. Melvin Dixon. Melvin Dixon was a writer who believed language could heal, illuminate, and bear witness, and he used every word to tell stories that had long been ignored. Born in Stamford, Connecticut in 1950, he developed an early love for literature, eventually earning his doctorate from Brown University. As a novelist, poet, translator, and professor, Dixon explored the inner lives of Black gay men with a clarity and emotional courage rare in American letters at the time. His novels, including Vanishing Rooms and Trouble the Water, blended lyrical prose with deeply human characters who navigated family identity and longing. His poetry collections, such as Change of Territory and Love's Instruments, carried themes of memory, desire, and the fragile beauty of everyday life. In the classroom, he was equally admired, teaching literature at institutions like Queens College and offering students a model of both rigor and empathy. Dixon came of age during a moment of rising cultural expression for queer Black writers, yet he also lived through the darkest years of the HIV/AIDS epidemic. By the late 1980s, many of his peers and friends were falling ill. Dixon himself was diagnosed with HIV, a reality he confronted with remarkable dignity and openness. As his health weakened, he continued to write and speak publicly, urging communities to confront the virus with honesty rather than fear. In one of his most memorable statements, he said his goal was to leave a mark, to leave a record, to tell the truth, a sentiment that guided his final years as both an artist and advocate. Despite increasing fatigue and illness, he kept working, believing that silence was the greatest enemy of those affected by the epidemic. On October 26, 1992, Melvin Dixon died at the age of 42 from AIDS-related complications. His death cut short a brilliant literary career, but his influence has only grown in the decades since. Scholars continue to teach his novels and poems for their depth and honesty, and younger writers cite him as a foundational voice who opened space for more authentic portrayals of Black queer life. Through his work, Dixon ensured that stories once pushed to the margins would never again be forgotten. As we close this journey through the stories behind these remarkable lives, one truth becomes impossible to ignore. The impact of HIV/AIDS on Black history is far deeper and more complex than many ever realized. These artists, athletes, thinkers, and trailblazers were not defined by their illnesses. They were defined by their brilliance, courage, and the legacies they left behind. And now the debate begins. How differently might our culture look today if these legends had lived longer? Share your thoughts in the comments and continue exploring untold stories with us here on Legends of Black Excellence.